Good morning, good evening, whatever time of day it is for you. Welcome to this thing that I do called Thor's Entertainment. I am Thor, and today I am doing another Fatal Friday video, only it is not Friday. Instead, I'm doing one a little bit early this week, an additional one, and it is going to be my Valentine's Day special. I already did a pre-Valentine's Day special last Friday, but I figured why not? Let's just go ahead and do one more video for the actual holiday. And for the holiday, I'm breaking out the characters Kitana and the cameo Jax. The goal here is to go after Kitana's fatality, Last Kiss.
Living in your sister's shadow wastes your potential.
It is my duty and privilege to serve her.
Take one. Action!
Which, with it being Valentine's Day, I figured Last Kiss, being a literal kiss of death for the opponents, well, it does not get much more Valentine's Day themed than that for Mortal Kombat, so let's go ahead and get into the Kombat League and try to earn that fatality. Now, the opponent that I am going against in the Kombat League this time around is going to be a Sub-Zero user who is making use of the Sareena cameo. Which, I mean, that's a pretty good combo in my opinion. Whenever I was using Sub-Zero to get his finishers, I was also using that same combination with Sareena, so I am pretty familiar with that, and it worked out pretty good for me, and I'm guessing it works out pretty good for him as well. And like I mentioned in my previous video, the pre-Valentine's Day video, I am still pretty new to using Kitana, so I'm still kind of trying to figure out her character a little bit, or at least get the timing for everything down. Like, she has really good projectiles. Most of her combos, if you want to get big damage, require you to get the opponent into the air. And the Jax cameo, well, he opens up a lot of things for Kitana. Like, you can turn her wake up into a full combo using Jax's grab. You can use Jax's ground pound to get the opponent to jump into the air willingly to avoid it, so then you can get a combo after that. And you can also set up Kitana's trap on the ground, where if the person walks into it, they get propelled into the air, and if you jump into the air and time it right, you get another big combo off of that. But if you combine that with Jax's ground pound, there's a lot of different little scummy things you can do to the opponent. All around, there's a lot of interesting trap-related things that you can do with Kitana, along with a bunch of really good zoning. The only downside to Kitana, in my opinion, is, well, she doesn't really have any overheads, at least not any good ones. So you're going to be really limited in what you can do to kind of keep the opponent guessing. For the most part, they can just crouch block the entire time and just do pretty good against you until you do something unsafe. Or at least that has been my experience with her so far, and what I kind of saw whenever I was practicing with her in practice mode. But that's alright though, with the kind of projectiles that Kitana has, the traps that she has, and then what the Jax cameo can do for her, giving her a bunch of mix-ups and crap like that might make her a little bit overpowered. So she's probably just right where she is, even though she's probably not like the greatest character in the game, although I was having a lot of fun playing as her. I also dabbled a little bit in combining her with the Sonya cameo, but I like the Jax one a little bit more. Like I said, that ground pound utility is really nice, and anytime you can do an armored wake up and then turn that into a combo that results in about 250 damage, well, I don't see the downside in that. So yeah, Jax is very, very handy when it comes to Kitana. Something you'll see me do a little bit in this fight is also try to throw out her fatal blow from time to time, and it's still unsafe, like pretty much every fatal blow is if a person blocks it, but in Kitana's case, it's a little bit harder to punish depending on how you do it because it requires her to throw out her fans, which can cover a little bit of distance. So you can try to hit the opponent from like mid-screen, and since the opponent's not right up in your face, it's not the easiest thing for them to punish. Like Sub-Zero's slide can probably do it. I know for a fact that Reptile's alligator roll can after my last fight, but not everybody has a lot of really good full screen options like that, or close to full screen options like that. So you have the luxury to throw that out there from time to time, and sometimes, just depending on who you are fighting, they might not know how to react to it since you're that far away. Like for example, I throw it out right here, Sub-Zero blocks it, but he's still pretty far away. If he had chose to slide, he probably could have still hit me before I had time to recover and then block it, but he doesn't do that, and we managed to maintain our distance. Unfortunately for me though, it was him who ended up winning that first match. So even though that first match was very competitive, it went to a third and final round, I ended up losing it, so we were going into match number 2 with me being down 1-0 in the set.
Your mother's death is regrettable.
I consider you complicit, Bihan.
Take one. Action!
And considering I did win one of the rounds in the previous match, and the very last one was very, very close, I'm still feeling pretty good about this. And worst case scenario, even if I did end up losing this set to Sub-Zero, I could always just continue on to the next opponent and then try to get the fatality against them as well. So it would not have been the end of the world if things just did not work out against this Sub-Zero person, so no reason to stress over it. So as I am watching this back, this Sub-Zero person does like to use the slide very frequently. And at times it's actually kind of clever. Like in that combo just a moment ago, normally that string ends in an overhead. But instead he canceled about midway through the combo, and he canceled specifically into the Sub-Zero slide. So instead of the overhead like I was expecting, I got a low attack. So he is actually doing a pretty good job keeping things mixed up, and yeah, I can appreciate what he was trying to do with some of those combos. I don't recall any of them being like really crazy damaging or anything like that, but there are just little things that were done really nicely. I can see why that first match ended up being a bit of a problem for me. But whenever you start to pick up on something like that, though, it's good to remember that slide being used as frequently as it is, so you can just kind of look out for it, because it is very, very punishable if you do end up blocking it. It's like that slide and his overhead mace attack. Those are like two of the most punishable things that Sub-Zero can do. So anytime I'm going against somebody using Sub-Zero, those are two things I really like to look for, and I think as the fight goes on, you see me kind of get used to how he's trying to use the slide, and it becomes a bit more predictable and a lot more punishable as a result of that. That might be me just remembering things incorrectly though, so we will see if that ends up being the case. We'll see how well I do punishing the slide going forward. Because it really has not happened so far, at least I have not really been able to successfully truly punish Sub-Zero for these efforts. Like, I've managed to block some of the slides, I've managed to block some of the overhead mace attacks, but I'm not really getting full combos out of it. Like the very last slide attack I think he did, all I did was get a low poke against him. Instead, I easily could have just done, I don't know, a back 2-4 attack into that fan lift special attack that knocks them into the air. You jump into the air, do a full combo. And that by itself is pretty good damage. Like, I did that exact combo just now to close out the second match, and it did 295 damage alone. That's not throwing jacks in there or anything like that.
Liu Kang's deceived you your entire life.
And yet still I trust him more than you.
Take one. Action.
So there was a very viable option on the table to punish a lot of those attacks that Sub-Zero was doing. But you don't really see me doing that early on against him whenever he's doing those unsafe attacks, and I do manage to successfully block them. I just get a couple of hits here and there, so the opportunities were definitely there. So my experience with Kitana was definitely showing, or I guess the lack of experience with Kitana was definitely showing. But enough about what could have been, how things could have been a little bit different earlier on in this set. There was no reason to get down on myself over that, because things were going alright, all things considered. After all, we currently find ourselves in match number 3 to decide who wins the entire set. So yeah, even though I could have capitalized on things more early on, I clearly wasn't doing too terrible because I'm very much in this thing. So I am below 30% health and the fatal blow is available, so what I'd like to do is knock Sub-Zero in the air and then go for the fatal. And here we go. Now this should hit, and it does. Now for the real question though. Does the fatal blow do enough damage to win the round? I am pressing every button on my controller right now to try and boost up the damage, because just in case you don't know that, if you land a fatal blow and you start hitting all the buttons on your controller, it actually does do more damage. Just gee whiz, I didn't know that until like really recently. And as you saw, the fatal blow in combination with a bunch of button mashing was enough. And I just did barely enough at that. But barely enough is still enough, and I won the very first round of the final match. Which means I only need one more round, one more victory, and then I win the entire set. And that was a really lucky and well-timed trap by Kitana, because Sub-Zero jumped up into the air and did the little dive kick thing. Whenever he went into the air, I set up that trap, and whenever he came down for the dive kick, I blocked him, and that block knocked him right into the trap and set him up for a full combo.
Fatality. Kitana wins.
And after losing the very first match of the set, I went on to win every other round after that. And after winning everything, I went ahead and executed Kitana's last kiss fatality. And after that kiss, my opponent ends up getting left on the ground looking like the Tar Man from Return of the Living Dead, so you know what, I'm okay with that. It's not often I get to reference that movie. And while voicing over this Valentine's Day special, I played a game where people fight to the death, my main character does a kiss of death, and then I also referenced the Tar Man from Return of the Living Dead. As you can tell, I am an excellent example of how to embody the spirit of Valentine's Day. Speaking of which, happy Valentine's Day. I hope you enjoyed this fatality, and now that it is over, this episode is almost over. I will be sure to show the fatality one more time at the very end of this outro so you can enjoy it one more time before parting ways. But yeah, that's pretty much going to be it. I will say I didn't notice this the first time around whenever I was doing this fatality, but there is a little heart symbol whenever Kitana does the kiss. I didn't realize that was there. I thought Sonya's fatality was the only one that did that, or else I might have chose this one as the pre-Valentine's Day episode and then did the opposite where Sonya's was the main one for Valentine's Day. I guess it really doesn't matter, but just something I noticed after the fact that I did not know prior to doing this video. But anyway, that's going to be it for this early edition, this holiday edition of Fatal Friday that's not actually on a Friday. If you enjoyed the video and want to see more of the examples of me highlighting finishers like fatalities and brutalities, feel free to check out my Mortal Kombat 1 online playlist, which covers the whole Fatal Friday series. And if you're really into the Mortal Kombat stuff, I do have playthroughs of the other Mortal Kombat games as well, so you can enjoy those too if you're really into that. But I'll go ahead and wrap things up here. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Take care, and I will see you next time. And of course, happy Valentine's Day.
Finish him! Fatality. Kitana wins.